We're absolutely privileged to share with you the experience of a farming family, and I hope, for all the other pilot farmers, that we do a good job in sharing our story, because I have met some absolutely wonderful people in my journey as a farming family, and I've made lovely, lovely friends. In fact, I would call them kindred spirits. I don't think anybody came to be a pilot farmer unless they had a true vision of how they could use the space that they live in to help those more vulnerable in their communities. We all shared that, and that is why the 20 farmers that were involved in this, I would consider them my friends. I don't know them all, but the ones I do know, I really like. So okay, so these are the 3 boys that came to our farm. We call them boys, but they were participants. And in life, I think we are all a student and a teacher at one. There's a lot of emphasis on what we can teach the participants who come onto our farm, but I do not feel that that's only half the story. Thomas, Martin, and Mayhall have taught Paul and I so much. They have shown us a new way to see our farm. When the boys came, we were excited to see them. And when we did our day's work, it was filled with an absolute enthusiasm that we had lost a long time ago on our farm. They showed us our farm in a new way, in a way of complete wonderment. It was amazing. And when the boys left, this is the truth. When those boys left my farm in the evening, I would go around and I would be very happy with the day's work, because it was a wonderful day's work. They were very able boys. But there used to be an energy in my farm. I'm not doing social farming anymore, and that energy isn't there anymore. And that's only one farm. And when people come to my farm, they would also get that sense, that wonderful sense of energy, that wonderful sense of newness, of something that was really, my farm is important to my community. When I was doing social farming, it was really important to those boys. But then when the neighbours would come, they would ask me about social farming, and they would be completely amazed at what we were doing. They go, "Wow, Mary, what are you doing that for? Really good, you should try it." Okay, so there were many, many activities carried out in our farm with the help of our participants, and they were fantastic. But I'm a teacher by trade. So, of course, for me, preparation is all important, as I was always taught. So in the evening before the participants, or the boys, we call them the boys, that is no disrespect, they were just wonderful human beings. But in the evening before the boys would come, I always thought about what we were going to do, or I'd already have it planned. So you would do the heavy work that was dangerous because of your risk assessment, and you would have all that out of the way, and you would have it sorted out and ready. So every Friday they come, I would write all our activities on a board, and here's an example of one on the 11th of October, and the boys that came to us couldn't actually read. So we'd decide, look around and say, right now, what is the weather like? So of course, that day we all had to wear hats, scarves and gloves. It was very cold. So we decided on our activities for the day, and every time we got an activity done, they would tick it. So there was a lot of ticking done at lunchtime and a lot of ticking done in the evening. But I think this is now our boys had learning disability, but I think this idea here is extremely important for those suffering from mental health issues, because I think when a person suffers from a mental health issue, what is really, really important is that they have a day of completion. Very often people with a mental health issue, their day is filled in a void, nothing happens. On our farm there was a day of completion. Tasks were completed, things were done, and a difference was made. And also by doing it this way, you kept them on task. So every task, and it suited me as a person, was done in complete mindfulness. We did that one task. We didn't have to think about what else we had to do. We just thought of the one task, and we completed that task. They learnt their skills, and I learnt lots of wonderful heart lessons from them. So here are some of the things we did. They worked in my orchard. I'm from Armagh. I live in Down, so I brought an orchard with me. So the boys helped me on my orchard, keeping it lovely. And there they are. And this is my vegetable garden. And I can tell you now, we are a small farm. My garden does not look like that now, because I don't have my helpers. They're not with me. I don't have Thomas, Martin and Michal to keep me on my toes. But we absolutely loved it. And this is us growing our broccoli. And there's our dog, Buddy. And Buddy also participated in social farming. I'm wondering you didn't get any of his comments or remarks. But this is the day during the lovely summer that we went out. And Paul's there picking black currants with the boys. And Paul asked for this photograph. So they'd all picked black currants. Everybody had picked black currants. And Paul had said, now, Mara, you take a photograph and let us see how much we all picked. You can see Paul doing the best. Poor Martin wasn't very happy. He really wasn't happy. He says, oh my goodness, we had to take another photograph, but that was just funny. So then, of course, into the house we went, and we've got some strawberries there, raspberries and blackcurrants all sitting on the island. And we were getting ready for the cooking. So they loved that. Now, this is my father-in-law, and he was on a slide earlier on, and it's Paul's daddy is Daisy, and Daisy suffers from Alzheimer's. And the social farming was really, really good for Daisy. He come to our farm, and when I first was married, Daisy always made the jam, always made damson jam. So it was just lovely for me to return that favour. And Daisy's here, and you can see he's really engaged and really involved, and he really knew what he was doing. The boys loved him, and he loved the boys that come to our farm. They just were so kind to him, and he really come out of himself that day. You know, so that is a precious memory for me, and it's a precious memory for my children. To have that photograph even, it's just lovely for me. And then I'm going to hand you over to Paul, because he done all the heavy work.
Oh, well, it's wonderful too. I used to think they were my sheep, but whenever the social farmers are there, they're our sheep. And, you know, out there's, that's Thomas in the front there, catching a sheep. Whenever he first came, he was from a town, and he never actually worked with sheep ever. And he was always sitting there opening the gates, never ever catching ewes. And you can see Martin, he was the catcher. Martin standing, he's actually holding the gate in this photograph, and Thomas is catching. Now, you can see Buddy again. That's a new crush facilities. You have to keep. First of all, I have to keep myself safe, keep the social farmers safe. That's a new crush put up there about 4 years ago. Working with sheep, they have to be drenched, clipped, injected, and there's a lot of work with them. And they have to have their feet done. And the lads, they loved helping out and doing. Every sheep has to be taken one at a time and put into what we called a dentist chair, where the sheep were sitting with their feet up, where they couldn't. And the boys absolutely loved this. It was actually very comical. And there's actually a photograph of the three lads sitting there. I had to get a photograph sitting there. So you can see here, I was happy enough. I was keeping an eye on them. Martin here was clipping the sheep's feet, and I was happy enough to let him at it. Michal was making sure it didn't escape. He was at the back. And Thomas there using the blue spray. He was the aftercare. Actually, don't imagine, this has actually happened. Whenever the lads came this morning, Martin here had a fit getting out of the taxi. Here, Paul, the sheep broke into our field. They've broken into our field. And we had to go up. This is about a mile up the road. And we had to go up and fix the ditch. This is massive. We had to fix about 20 yards of ditch. And around our farm, believe it or not, we have a 60-acre farm, but we've about 4.5 miles of ditches and fencing to be maintained. Whenever I actually done a calculation, so 4.5 miles is quite a bit. I would never thought, whenever farmers here, you actually think of there's always work. The amount of ditches and fences and hedges. So you can see Thomas taking the lead. He's putting in the posts. Michal is doing a bit of drive, and Martin clearing there. And of course, this is my granny's farmhouse, my granny and granddad's farmhouse right beside us. We done up their own wee space. We listened to their views. They always wanted their own wee. They didn't like using the kitchen. They wanted their own wee space. So we done up the old farmhouse, and we give them their own wee space. And there's the three lads. They're sitting in it, and that there is their office. They called it. And we put in a log burner stove, and they're happy as anything there. Again, just an wee job, going around all the ditches around the farms. There's all those bits of timbers and trees, and and of course, waiting in the taxi in the evening. Martin is always time for a bit of fun. And it's back to Mary.
Okay. So The one thing about the family that I live in is that we absolutely adore all the seasons, and I think being a farmer, you can actually see the changes in the year, and it's beautiful. The leaves falling off the trees. You've got your snow. There's a beautiful rhythm to the farming life, to country life, and you know that is what we tried to share with the boys. So here we are. This is my aunt, and she actually come over. She was working in Australia, and she was on sabbatical, and she come and joined me for the week. And on the Friday, she was there for the boys, and she absolutely loved it. In fact, she donned wellies too, and she had the boys out working in the orchard that particular day. So this is a barbecue that we all had because they just loved having barbecues. And I think Martin missed this barbecue. Martin's not in this photograph. So then we had to have another barbecue because he missed that one. Was that on another day? So 2 barbecues. So this is us at Halloween, on the day it was Halloween. So again, we'd picked the apples, and there's me all helping me bake the pie. They loved bacon. The boys absolutely loved bacon. I loved having them. And here again is Daisy and Ali. And one of the best things about Alice Kelly is she's a great wee baker, and there's a Kelly pudding. Now I have got it in my book, but nobody else is getting it, only if you're related to me. But anyway, she come that day and she helped us make the puddings in her own particular way. And Daisy was there because one of the skilling, he hadn't lost it then. He could actually do this fancy knot that you could put your pudding into the pot, and you could use the string with the fancy knot to lift it out, and he still could do it, even though he had the Alzheimer's. So sometimes people think someone with Alzheimer's is a very depressing diagnosis. No, it's not. The things that are really important in a person and for a person, they always have. That was always important for Daisy, always important for me, and he was able to share that with us and the boys that day. So that was our Christmas, making the puddings. And of course then there's Ali and Thomas. She was in full command of the whole kitchen, telling us all what to do. And I don't know how many puddings we made that day, maybe about 8 puddings. But there she is, and the boys were terrific, and she told them exactly what to do. And then of course we had to have our Christmas dinner, and they loved that. We loved it too. But Martin here, he just loved his grub. So that's us at our Christmas dinner. So those type of events were very important, as well as birthdays. You had to do birthday parties as well. But anyway, so this, just here, all this was made possible for Paul and I. This absolutely fantastic experience was made possible for Paul and I because of the SoFAB pilot. And this is some of the things that we did as part of that pilot. This was our contribution to the pilot. So we held an open day, and we showed off our farm, and we also went to Balmoral Show, where we stood in a stand with Paul and the other SoFAB members, and we sort of educated those people at Balmoral and got terrific feedback from all the people coming to us. And we were also involved in making some of the film footage, and also just on the 17th of July past, we had some of the trainee farmers come to our farm. So this is a great picture. I absolutely love it. There is Martin, and there's me, Holland Thomas. They were quite quiet, but Martin's quite vocal. So here he is, and I was thinking to myself, well, why did Paul not just ask Martin to come up and talk? He talked to everybody on the day of our open day. He was absolutely fantastic. So enthusiastic. And here is, have to point it out again, there's my wee slide for letting us all know what we're doing. And this was the day of the filming. And again, there's Ali, can't do anything without the mother-in-law. And this is Clodagh McGreehan's mommy. We call her Auntie Rosaline. And Aunt Rosaline lives at the top of our lane. And any time I was doing anything, she was always there to help me out. So there she is, she's putting out the stew, and we're making a big feed for everybody. You must think I do nothing but eat, but it's very important. So anyway, this is just the last we thought. Having heard our story, I hope those in positions of influence have truly listened with open minds and open hearts, and make a decision which is based on intelligence and wisdom. In other words, make a smart, wise decision for us all to go forward. And I'm going to explain my smart wise. We are a small farming family. We do not make enough money on our farm in agriculture. We need to diversify. I have completed a diversification programme carried out by CAFRE. So we need to diversify in order to survive. Let us not wait until all of the small farms in Northern Ireland and in the south have all closed up simply because of financial reasons. The contribution that a small farming family makes to the community is much, much greater than that. And you have to see it, but you really have to open your eyes to see it. We can help those less fortunate than ourselves, the more vulnerable in our community. But we need assistance to do that. There is a ready-made resource there. Our farms are sitting. I come from a lovely space. There's a lovely energy in my farm. My farm can heal people. All I'm asking for is those people in authority here today will truly take the message that you have to figure that one out. Figure out how to help the farming families keep the glue of our communities together instead of waiting until those communities are scattered. As in other countries, as in America, with huge big plains where corporations do the farming for the community. I do the farming for my community. I want my children to do the farming for their community. We are a vital, vital part of the communities in which we live and in which we serve. And here's my last quote. I'm just going to compete with everybody else. And so, it is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye. So see beyond what is in front of you. Imagine